It was a wonderful week at Asilomar. It always is, and those of you that have been there know that there's an essence, there's a feeling. Not only is it a location and a destination, it just is. There's such a nurturing quality, a beautiful sense of belonging, and certainly one with nature and of nature. And we had this great opportunity to enjoy cool weather, and the only day we really had sunshine was Thursday. And before I start my lesson, I just get half the time to speak today. Reverend Michael gets the other half. But the one thing that I thought was so amazing to me is I was doing my spiritual practice, and about 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock on Thursday morning. And I said, you know, God, I'm just really tired of these gray days. Roll back and give us sunshine. And by 8:30, 9 o'clock, it just burst forth into this beautiful blue sky. And I had the opportunity to have a burned forehead from being on the deck talking to other ministers. But it was a great opportunity to connect, be refreshed, and be fed spiritually. It was wonderful. I read to you today from our book of the month that Reverend Michael and I have chosen. It's Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. I know many of you are familiar with it. It's one that has been of great strength and of great support to me in my many years in religious science. Life is really very simple. What we give out, we get back. What we think about ourselves becomes the truth for us. I believe that everyone, myself included, is responsible for everything in our lives, the best and the worst. Every thought we think is creating our future. Each one of us creates our experiences by our thoughts and our feelings. The thoughts we think and the words we speak create the experience. My lesson's entitled, See the Change. And certainly having that time at the seashore created an opportunity for change and awareness and newness. And we all see differently. There are many seas. The visuals, the ocean, and then there's the Holy Sea, and I'll talk about these today. The first sea, our visual that we connect with when I'm looking at all of you, is to perceive by the eye what we choose to see. Beauty in the eye of the beholder. And when we use our visual, we recognize and we understand and we visualize. And when we form a mental picture of something, it's the mind's eye that holds that for all of us to, in the personal space, know and enjoy. It also means that when we see something, we tend to care for that. We see that someone is on good stead. We see that someone is well taken care of. We see someone is appreciated, like Minda and like Michael, our musicians today. We appreciate that sea. Then there's the Holy See, and that's the jurisdiction of the authority of the bishop's office, related highly to my former church, the Catholic Church, that Holy See, that sacred space, that beautiful space. And my favorite sea, you guessed it. It covers much of the earth. It's salt water. There's the Pacific, there's the Atlantic, and that beautiful Mediterranean. All create that sea of welcome and change and movement and authenticity. This week I had the great pleasure of seeing the sea. I formed a mental picture that will always be. And as some of you know, that the Center for Spiritual Living has chosen not to return next year to Asilomar. I've had the pleasure of being at Asilomar since 1988. And I know that Dr. Carolyn has probably had 40 or 45 opportunities to visit that. And we were with Dr. Bump the other day at lunch, the pastor of the Fort Lauderdale Church. And she had the opportunity, this is her 48th Asilomar. And she says, I don't know what to do next year in July if we don't return there. I said, but we carry our visuals. We carry the sea with us at all times. For 5 days I watched and I listened and I heard the sea that I was seeing. It's very supportive, very relaxing, very invigorating. It's so supportive. And as I walked that 107 acres, and it was just such a time of return, a time of rekindling my thoughts, a time to make it all new and happen again. This year's Asilomar retreat was themed Because We Can, and its desire is to have a world that works for everyone. And I think most of us are of that opinion, that if we can all get together, if we can all get the eggs in one basket, that we can share in our community, we can share in this country, we can share in the world the goodness that Spirit has for us. There are many souls, some 600 that were at the conference. They were from Canada and America, Mexico, Ukraine, England, France. And it was wonderful walking the grounds. You'd hear all these unusual languages other than English. It's nice to hear that. We definitely have an international feeling at this conference. Dr. Ken Gordon, and many of you remember when he was here at our center for our building dedication, and the spiritual leader for Centers for Spiritual Living, he opened this year's conclave by sharing, "You were born for a purpose. Maintain your vision." And he went on further. There's a power for good in the universe, and you can use it, and this power can use you. And during the entire week, we had numerous opportunities to have that opportunity to know that we are here to serve. The inspiring message was entitled, "You Are the One." And as Reverend Mike and I came up Interstate 5, nearing Chico, I realized that I am the one. That I've been placed here on the planet to be in service for Spirit and for all of humanity. There was such a time of, excuse me, of relaxation, and a time to get everything in mind, to straighten out that which was not serving purpose for me. I could use a treatment.
You do want to
Turn inward, it's there. I am one, you got it. But I know that as I serve humanity, that it gives me great joy. And there's a great sense of connection with life. Our word of the month for August here at the center is expansion. And your spiritual leader's book is You Can Heal Your Life, authored by Louise Hay. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, noted in the Science of Mind textbook, and I quote, "It is interesting that light comes with an expansion of consciousness. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not." So what we are lights, pixels of light, illumining, transforming, and allowing ourselves to be known. We are all varying degrees of that light. We are the light of the world, and you and I are pure consciousness, sharing that one mind. We are the unlimited possibility of expansion and self-expression. Each one of us carry that wherever we go. And my truth to be known after my Asilomar experience is this: the main desire of my heart and the chief purpose of my life is that I am a channel of consciousness to see, to be, and to do the work of spirit on the planet. And when I use this consciousness in a directive way, I pour the love, the truth, the beauty, and every attribute of God into the world. I am, I like to think of us as a busy bee, a worker bee, doing the work of spirit. And each and every one of you are that. We are here to be of service, in service, as service. That was made apparent in every speaker that spoke at the conference this year. And we had a nice opportunity this year to see people from all over the world. Each morning, there was a 5-minute, like a creative thought, presented by people from China, from the Ukraine, Peru, wherever. It was interesting to hear their take on what we teach. There was a clarity, a universal clarity, and a thread of truth that was in every speaker. And that I come away from each of those sessions knowing that there was more oneness than separateness, no matter where we are in the world. Our self-worth is never gauged by our net worth. I brought that home too. That no matter what we have or don't have, we are valuable, viable individuals on the planet. You beautiful beings are transparent expressions of the one power, the one joy that we call God and Spirit. You're in human form, doing a magnificent job, and having and living your life in the love and the harmony that each one of us are destined to be. One of my favorite speakers is kind of a wild child. I'm sure in her earlier time in life, she was probably a disco dancer, and you can get, long hair, full of fun, has now redirected her life into a more viable usage of life, I think, because she's become very attached to science of mind and had a large center up in Oregon. Recently moved to Florida. Her name is Susie Shadle. And she spoke with such clarity. First of all, she came out in her pajamas. And there was 600 of us at the evening session. And I thought, only Susie could do this. They were very attractive. They had pigs on them?
Something.
They had, when pigs fly, it was two-piece, of course, so short pants and a cute top, and these bright pink pigs on these white pajamas. Only she could get along with it, do that. And we all started, we all sucked wind, and I thought, what next? At the end of the lesson, and she made it so clear, she dressed in front of us in street clothes. And I can't imagine putting your street clothes over your pajamas, but she did. She looked well. And during this time, she was telling us these wonderful things. Amongst them, that we're all contributions to the world, each and every one of us, that we bring the meaning of life to the world, and that we need to see the change in the world that we want it to have. We can do that. And that when we find our gift, when we find that which is ours to share and to use, then give it away. Give it away. I've come to believe this giving is a spiritual experience. Be it love, be it a smile, a larger than usual donation to your Sunday celebration, or whatever. Doing a kind deed, throwing the newspaper, collecting somebody's mail. And while we were away, we forgot to ask anyone to pick up our newspapers. Some beautiful soul that must walk daily by our home collected all of the newspapers and put them by the mailbox. And whoever that is, I say, thank you, Spirit. They took care of us. I have one more reading as I conclude from Louise Hay. In the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete. And yet life is ever changing. There is no beginning and no end, only a constant cycling and recycling of substance and experience. Life is never stuck or static or stale, for each moment is ever fresh and new. I am one of the very power that created me, and this power has given me the power to create my own circumstances. I rejoice in the knowledge that I have the power of my own mind to use in any way. Every moment of life is a new beginning point as we move forward from the old. This moment is a new point, a new beginning, right here, right now, for all is well in my world. I close with my lessonette this morning with a few little tidbits from that beautiful Dr. Holmes' writing. The future is not over, is not ours to see. It is ours to know. And Dr. Holmes said this, to see rightly, you see with your heart. And my lessonette, Blends in Love.
Me to play in between them, so here we go. I'm trusting in you, Lord. I'm trusting in you, Lord. I'm trusting in you, Lord. I am learning to love, and I am guided from above. I'm trusting in you, Lord. I'm trusting in you, Lord. I'm trusting in you, Lord. God is deep inside of me, and God is in everything I see. I'm trusting in you, Lord. I'm trusting in you, Lord. I'm trusting in you, Lord. God is the source. God is the source of all good. God is the source. God is the source of all good. I'm trusting in you, Lord. I'm trusting in you, Lord. I'm trusting in you, Lord. God is the source. God is the source of all good. God is the source. God is the source of all good. God is the source. God is the source of all good. God is the source. God is the source of all good. God is the source. God is the source of all good.
Thank you, Michael. Good morning again. So it's nice hearing what Reverend Louie shared this morning, in that, as you know, we shared before, that we don't know what the other one is actually going to say. And so it's all new. And it's interesting to me, as I was hearing his words, how some of it was in the oneness that I talked about at the opening this morning. So I began with a quote from Dr. Ernest Holmes. The average man desires an eternal progress and everlasting expansion. Well, the human body has an impulse to move forward, doesn't it? At least mine does. And that this movement begins even before we're born. We're moving around. We're activity. And from our first breath to our tentative steps as a child, through our schooling and our careers and our relationships to our last human breath, we are in eternal progress here on the planet. And I'm thinking beyond too. Don't know, that's just my idea. Each one has a journey, I do know that. Each of us is on our own separate journey. And you might say we are living our own unique time machine. From beginning to end. And as human forms, we have the opportunity to have a lot of fun, don't we? As I mentioned my tie this morning. I don't know how many have seen it before. It's not the first time I've worn it, but I wear it on very special childlike occasions. And coming back from camp, as I call any Asilomar conference, has been my camp for all these years. And so I'm renewed as a child. I get in touch with that part of me that is more pure and innocent. As human forms, I said we have the opportunity to have more fun, don't we? And who doesn't like to have fun? I love to have fun. And what I also know is that there is something within me that gets real tickled when I'm feeling the fun. Joan, I get tickled around you because you're fun. You're fun to be with. And there's many people here that I could go around and name your fun aspect. Because I like to know you. I like to tap into that part of me that's part of you. And there's the fun in the oneness that I know we all have, but don't always recognize fully. And so that's why we're here, to recognize that fullness. That fun is the desire for the expansion of spirit within. That's what I believe. And so at the conference last week, as Reverend Louie was saying, my spirit was let loose. And why was it let loose? Well, it was the theme because we can. We can let loose. We hold ourselves back. We say, oh, I shouldn't do that, or I can't do that. What will people think? Who gives a rat's body part? You know, in the big picture of life, what offensive I don't want to be. And there for me is, my fun doesn't have to interfere with your life or your fun. So if you're a participant, get on board. We can have fun. Well, there were approximately 700 spiritual travelers drawn together in love with the intention of helping create this world that works for everyone. And it's really easy in a group like this, isn't it? To feel that, to know that. But the moment you go off and do your life, in your world, in your whatever you've set up, oh my, it can be a little more challenging, can't it? So how do you and I help create a world that works for everyone? What does it take? It takes one person at a time. Beginning with you and beginning with me. We must see the change. I loved your see this morning. See the change. See the change. And to change, we have to do what? We have to let go. We must forgive. We must forego. And we must relinquish. We have to change our ideas of what was and to see the future in a higher knowing and a deeper faith in the process of our own spiritual evolution. Sometimes that evolution is a little messy, isn't it? But any of you, probably most of you, who've been through an evolutionary process know the taste is better on the other side. Once you've gone through that. Once you've gone through that. So here's what I know. None of us can see the future. None of us can see the future. However, as a religious scientist, we can enable the future. We can and must enable the future to perform for us in our own choosing. And it begins by changing ourselves first. It begins by changing how we think, how we believe. And we cannot change the future. And why? Because it hasn't happened yet. It's not now. Future is then going to be. What's happening is happening now. And what's happening now is important for your future is to be mindful of how you're thinking, what you're creating, what you're enabling to be in your life. And we can enable something greater for our lives and for our future. Because we do affect our own human evolution, and therefore contributes to our spiritual evolution. But what I know about evolution, it begins with involution. That part of us inside. The best evolution is conscious, and it starts on the inside. Each of us gets to choose that. Or not. Or not. Change happens. Evolution happens. How it happens, how it might show up, depends on us and how we contribute. Well, now, we cannot have new while hanging on to anything old. So I'm stepping off what I know is comfortable. And anytime we hang on to things, this is my baggage. These are ideas I'm carrying with me. You know, and it's really tough to go for a long hike or a run with all this. Beverly, would you stand up? Stand up, please. Come here. How hard is it to... No, this is me. It's all about me.
All right.
You stand there.
Okay.
Hug someone. With all, is it going to feel like really pure and coming from you, or are you taking all your stuff with you? Is it really you, or is it all this that's hugging Louie? So, you know, we carry all this stuff with us. Not as evident, maybe, but it's there. So imagine lugging all this everywhere we go. Into a new relationship. The grocery store. Any new relationship is going to have all that baggage unless we let it go. Understand what it is, how it works. To be new, you can't carry the same old stuff. You can't just carry it unconsciously. The poet Hafiz said, "What we speak becomes the house we live in." I like that. It scares me. What we speak becomes the house we live in. Ernest Holmes tells us thoughts are things. The Bible says, "It is done unto you as you believe." Common threads, common threads. So what are you believing about all your stuff? What are you believing? What ideas have you built into your house? This mental house. Are they still working for you, or are they working to keep you stuck, held back into what was? We have not come here to take prisoners, my friends. We need to unlock the jail cells of our mind and let them go. It's your mental imprisonment, and it's mine, that we lock ourselves into. Before we can see the change, we must be the change in here. So how do we begin to move out of our mental imprisonment and to be transformed? Well, release. It's the last step of treatment. Release. Release what no longer serves. It's the releasing that unlocks the attachment and thus expunges the old. not a great word, expunges the old. Now, when I'm feeling locked down, this is the statement I use to release all that stuff. Here it is. And there's 4. I release what I think it looks like. I release what I think I know about it. I release who I think I am. And I release what I think it means. I release what I think it looks like. I release what I think I know, and I release who I think I am. And I release what I think it means. So Dr. Holmes wrote, we must become as little children. The life of the child is lived in natural goodness. God is natural goodness. The prison walls of false experience soon build themselves into barriers, shutting out the light. And the child grows into a man or woman, often losing their sense of that inner guide, leading that lead the footsteps aright. Wow. That's why we love little children. They don't have all this baggage, this stuff. That's why we smile when we look at their face. Oh, look at the angel. Who hasn't said that one? Look at this little angel. They haven't become imprisoned yet by their own mind. In the book The Little Princess, it says, to see rightly, you have to see with your heart. When we enable our future from ideas of love, magnificence happens. And we see our future as now, we see it from the perspective that is of spiritual truth. And spiritual truth is that it is already complete in the mind of God. So when we see it as now, we know it's complete. We have no hesitation. We have no fear. And we let it show up in our lives. So I offer you, as I close, an affirmation which helps to remind me of the oneness. And many of you know it. And if you can join in. We're going to do it a couple of times. There is only one life. This life is God's life. This life is perfect. This life is my life now. There is only one life. This life is God's life. This life is perfect, and this life is my life now. So, beloved, you are magnificent beings, co-creating in perfect form. Don't ever forget that. And you create in this perfect form the life you choose. So I urge you to delve a little deeper and know that it is you that believes who you are. And only you. Look and see the change. Because you can, it's up to you. It's up to you. And it's up to me. Individually. And remember, what we speak is the house we live in. Namaste.